But he said, I have an African proverb for you. He said, if you want to run fast, run by yourself. And if you want to run far, run with a team. And I just realized in that moment that if I want to get to the finish line of what God's called me to do, I'm not going to do it by myself. There's no way with me alone, I'm going to be able to dot all the I's, cross all the T's, come up with the budget, blah, 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 blah. No way. And so I put a good team around me.
This is the Faith and Family Filmmakers podcast, helping filmmakers who share a Christian worldview stay in touch, informed, and inspired. Quiet on set. Rolling. Your hosts, Jeffrey and Jaclyn Witt.
Welcome to the Faith and Family Filmmakers podcast. I'm Jaclyn, and today Geoff and I are speaking with Ricky Borba. This is part 2 of our interview, and if you did not hear the first one, I really want to recommend that you go back and listen to it because he shared some incredible stories of how God moved in his life, moving him toward his film career. And so now we want to get into learning from you. I mean, Ricky, it's not just that you've been in the industry a long time. You also have a heart, like a pastor's heart and a teacher's heart. And so you're wanting to share some of the things that you've learned. So What kinds of things are you wanting to create? What kind of education are you looking toward?
I'm really passionate about helping people follow their dreams. And so in the film industry, usually that is how it manifests is you come up to me like, hey, either this happened to me and I want to tell this story, or you say, I have this idea. So how do you get that from your brain to the box office? How does that happen? And so because I've done that now 3 times, my Brother's Crossing was completely written script and I didn't have to do much on that. But the other 3 films I've done have been from here to getting it out there. And so how do you do that? So I have a masterclass that I'm going to be teaching, but it's basically you have a few elements, and I'm going to pull up my phone here. I'm going to because I don't want to missay it. I've given them really cool names. So you have the bulletproof script. So you need a bulletproof script. You need to have a script that's not just well written, but also evaluated. And for me, they need to hit a certain mark. They need to be in the top 20%. And then once you get that done, we go on to the pitch packet. Your pitch packet needs to have some things, and it does not need other things. And so I've seen hundreds of pitch packets that, for people wanting to pitch projects, a lot of them have too much, a lot of them have too little, but a few of them are really well done. And so I want to teach people how to make a pitch packet. And then what does production look like? Chances are if you have an idea, you don't just want to write that, then hand it off. You want to be part of the production. So how do you hire the right people? Who do you look for? What kinds of things should you look for in a cameraman and a crew and all those things? And then finally, the biggest one is all that's great. All those 3 things are great, but how is that film going to make money and how are you going to get your investors' money back so that we have the distribution model? So I just want to teach people, what I've been through, the mistakes I've made and the good decisions I made. And so that when they have an idea, if they take my class, they can theoretically get their idea from their brain to the box office with the things that I teach. It's still hard. Mm-hmm. I'm still working on my own films. My name is not Steven Spielberg or Christopher Nolan. I don't have a blank check. I have to go out and do this for myself all the time. And, you don't hit a home run every time. I'm working right now on my biggest film. It's a $5 million budget. It's an idea that I got during the pandemic. And I'm talking to a couple investors right now. So while I'm teaching, I'm also living it. Mm-hmm. And so the goal would be for me not to have to do this anymore. The goal would be for me to be a studio to come aside and say, hey, we're giving you a 5-picture deal. But until that point, I want to help people, because if I knew what I know now, how's that phrase go? If I knew then what I know now, I would have saved so much time and money and effort on getting those films to where they needed to be. I could have done things a lot differently. So I want to help people. Mm-hmm. And I just have a heart for helping people.
That's awesome. And it's so true. Like all of those factors need to be playing in together. And it's good to know even like the end from the beginning, like to understand what it is that you're getting into and what the goal is and what it looks like, rather than just because there's a difference between a dream and a goal, know, and so it sounds like what you're doing is helping people to go from having a dream to creating that goal and that process so that they can actually achieve it. And it's no longer just an idea that's been rolling around in their head for who knows how long.
Yeah. Like you said, a dream is different than a goal, but I always say a goal without a plan is a wish.
There you go.
And so what are you going to do about that goal that you have? if you don't have a plan, and the Bible also says, for lack of what? Knowledge, my people perish. And so we need to have knowledge. So yeah, all of it comes, and I'm not giving Bible verses during my teaching, but it is all biblically based in terms of like, these are the things that God has told us would help if we do them. And so I want to give those to you.
Yeah. No, I love that. And I think that, like one of the reasons why Jeff and I started, well, it was called Family Friendly Screenwriting Academy before we changed the name to Faith and Family Filmmakers Association. But as the Screenwriting Academy, the whole thing behind it was that I had taken a bunch of courses. And I had been told to watch these movies or these TV shows in order to learn the content that the course came from. And most of these shows were outside of my boundaries of what I would want to watch. And I was like,
Sure.
I don't want to be forced to learn in this environment. Like, there's got to be a way to learn this without having to go outside of my own personal boundaries. And so that's kind of what birthed that. And I think that there are a lot of people that they do want to learn how to serve God with this calling of moving into the film industry. And so it's really hard to feel like you're moving toward that if you are working with someone who is exposing you to things that are outside of God's will.
Sure.
So I appreciate that you're creating this environment that Christians can go
Yeah.
and learn how to do well, how to pursue excellence, how to pursue with profit in mind. Because people say like, oh, it's not about the money. And of course, that's not the end goal, but it needs to be one of the goals, because
It absolutely
you want
does.
to make more than one. You want to be a good steward with what you've been given. You are accountable to your investors. So making
Yeah,
money does need to be a big part of the picture.
that's right.
So yeah, I love that you're providing this opportunity in this space of people that want to honor God with the work that they do.
Well, thank you.
So let's get into some advice.
Okay.
Ricky, we've got
Yeah.
listeners here, all filmmakers, aspiring filmmakers,
Yeah.
and you've got experience as a director. Tell us what you would like to share. Give us some tips.
My first tip would be, you can do it. I mean, honestly, it's so simply stated. It is the fact that you can do this. There is a path for you to get your script to completion. Now, whether it gets made into a film is a whole different thing. But if you've got an idea for a story, there are so many things now that you can use, and they're really free tools that you can get this done. There are other tools that are not free that can help you get it done faster and better, but you can do this. So I don't ever want to be that guy that says, I don't know, Jaclyn, I don't know if this is your thing. You might just want to stick to crocheting. Like, that's people
Have you
say
seen
things
me
like that all the
crochet?
time. Yeah. Yeah. People say things like that all the time. So first of all, I just want to tell you that you can do this. This is achievable. And then number two, you can break them, but there are rules. You have to follow certain rules in script writing. You have to follow certain rules in filmmaking, but you can break them and be avant-garde, but you can't rewrite the system. There has to be certain things in your script. You cannot introduce your villain on page 94 of a 97-page script, things like that. There are things you have to do, that make it work better. So you have to learn those things, but you can learn those things while you're also taking your idea from germination to putting it in a paper. And then kind of go back to something I said in episode 1 of these talks we're having, is put some people around you that have your destiny in mind. Put some people around you that are going to pick you up when you're down, that are going to encourage you. Maybe it's financially, maybe it's just emotionally, but you need people to say, hey, I believe in you. You're really giving it a go here. I'm going to help you out with whatever I have. I have a couch. You need a place to sleep one night. Here, I don't know what that looks like for you, but there needs to be people in your life that are there picking you up by the bootstraps sometimes, because nobody is self-made. No one is self-made. There are probably scores of people in my life that helped me get here in one way or another, including God, obviously. So, A, you can do this. B, there are rules that you have to follow, and I'm a huge rule breaker, but there's still tenets you have to do. And then C, did I go 1, 2, 3 or ABC? We'll do. I don't know which way I did, but then the third thing would be put people in your life that have your destiny in mind.
Yeah, no, that's great. And it's true. I tell people the same thing with screenwriting. I'm like, it's fine to break the rules as long as you know
Yeah.
what they are, and you can't
Exactly.
break all of them
Yeah.
at the same time. You have to be very intentional and selective of which rules you're going to break, because if you break too many of them, then everything
right.
just feels disjointed and it feels like a mess, and it doesn't it doesn't feel like it was intentional. It just feels
Yeah.
like, oh, you don't know what you're doing.
And I'm going to do it, not to drop my book again, but on page 63 of this book that I wrote, I have my personal phone number and email address. This book is called Trusting God, Pursuing Your Dreams and Never Giving Up on Yourself. It's just kind of a handbook if you have dreams, how to maybe get them achieved.
Mhm.
And on page 63, I say, if you need encouragement or help or something, call me, text me, email me, write me, smoke signal, because I want to be an encouragement to you. Bob Goff, who has millions of followers, he's an incredible author, incredible speaker, has his phone number in his book. I've called him twice. He's answered on the first ring both times, and I figured if me with my 4 followers, if Bob Goff has millions, that I with my 4 followers, I could have my information in my book, and I really mean it. I've had a few people reach out via text and say, "Hey, I read your book. I'm reading it right now. I need encouragement. I'll either pray for them or whatever." And I think we need people in our lives to help us.
Absolutely. That's amazing. I have a question, like with your journey, you had mentioned like one of the things that you want to do with teaching is to help people to, not make the mistakes that you made and then, to learn from the things that you did right and all of that. I'm just curious about some of those mistakes. What are some things, or maybe it wasn't a mistake, maybe even just something that you would do differently knowing what you know now?
Sure. Yeah,
Yeah.
that's a great question. I think the thing that comes to mind um, when you're making content, whether you're a writer or you're making videos or whatever, don't put all of it out there for the world to see. It's important for you to put it to people that know you and love you, that can give you unbiased feedback, that aren't going to blow smoke up your butt and say, "Oh, this is great," when it's not. But don't put your acting reel on the internet for everybody to see when it's not good, because what happened with my first film is I was living in Sacramento and I wanted to bring all of my filmmaking friends along with me to make this film. And the producer and the executive producer who was financing the thing looked at their reels and stuff and said, "Absolutely not. You want me to hire this guy? Look at this. This is garbage." And so my first thing would be, don't put everything that you make out for the world to see. Keep some of it here, and then show your friends and family and close people. And then as it gets better, start putting it. And not everybody's going to like it. I'm not saying when you do put it out there, everybody's going to love it. That's, take even Star Wars. Not everybody loves Star Wars. But really, don't cast your pearls before swine, and don't put your swine out for the world to see. And so that's number one. Number two, I think with the advent of these devices, these cell phones that we have in our pockets, use it. Learn things. Go on YouTube. Go on 1,000 other places, Khan Academy, and learn about what you're doing. Take a masterclass from masterclass.com. I think one of the things that I really regret not doing was spending more time using the tools at the time, 7, 8, 9 years ago, to be the best version of myself for my first film and second film and third film. Now, thankfully, through the grace of God and the gifting that He's given me and the anointing I have for that, I was okay at it. But I probably could have been better had I spent some more time studying and learning the craft from people that I admire, and maybe even people that I don't know about, that people are like, "Wow, this guy's got 37 million views on TikTok. You should see what he's doing." Go look at that and see why that is striking a chord with people. At the end of the day, God's a storyteller. He left us a book, right? So what is a book? It's a book of stories. So God is telling stories perpetually from the dawn of time to the end of time. And if there's people doing it well, go see why and connect the dots. That is resonating with people for this reason and that reason, this. So I would say, study and use the tools of the day right now to make yourself better.
Absolutely. That's a good word. I think that there's so much out there that, like, there's really no excuse.
Absolutely. Agree.
Yeah. I
100%.
know even when I was a single parent, like this was maybe 15 years ago, a little bit more than that, I was trying to lose weight because I had gained a lot of weight when I had my kids.
Hmm.
And so I thought, well, I want to be healthy. That was my goal. And so I started studying nutrition. And so I studied nutrition like practically for a year, and I was implementing all the things that I learned. I never spent a cent on it though. I went to the
Yeah.
library.
Right.
All
Yeah.
of my work and studying in nutrition was all just effort.
Yeah.
Like whatever it cost me to get to the library and, and pick up books and then read it. Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly.
Or pick a subject now. Go on YouTube and type in better sleep. Thousands of videos are going to come up with doctors saying, "Here's how you get better sleep." Like you said, there's no excuse now.
Yeah. And, I think also one thing that I've noticed lately is that the other thing that is really important to learn are the soft skills. So you have your actual skill of whatever it is that you're pursuing, but then The question is, what kind of a person do I need to be, and what kind of habits do I need to incorporate in my life in order to be successful
Yeah.
at that thing that I want to pursue? And so even just like learning time
Mhm.
management, like learning a lot of these other skills, like how to break down your goal setting and all of that so that you can actually, like, you may have a goal, but like you said, without a plan, it's really
It's a
hard to
wish.
actually, yeah, it's really hard to achieve it. And so how do you actually
Yeah.
create the plan? And like all of those skills, that's what's necessary in order to become that thing that you're pursuing to become.
Right.
And like again, those things, they don't take money necessarily. I mean, sure, you can pay for classes for that and they're valuable, but a lot of that stuff you can learn by getting a book at the library or watching something on YouTube. Like there's so many learning opportunities out there. And
Yes.
then it really comes down to the discipline and implementing it into your life. And of course, if you want to be a producer or a director or an actor, like all of those things take work. Like it is a lot of work to actually achieve those things. When we put together the meetups, we wanted to be very strategic with the approach, thinking about the obstacles. Where are those things that would actually make the greatest impact?
I just wanted to say thank you, Jaclyn. You guys having everything so organized. I went on the website last week. I was able to sign up. All the instructions worked. Everything was seamless. And I have not had an experience where it's been this seamless ever. Also, I've already met some amazing people on this. And I love the format. You teach us a little bit, and then we go into a separate group with just a few people. It takes away some of the anxiety if anybody has anxiety about speaking in a large group. And also, I've gotten to really know people beyond just that's your name and your face. And some people I knew already, which is also great because there's so many people here from the industry that just have amazing experience in all areas. I've met writers, I've met actors, I've met producers. Today, I was with somebody in a room who actually does editing, and that was such a great perspective.
Join us on Thursday mornings for our FAF Association meetings. We've got networking opportunities, masterminds, and more. Find the schedule on our homepage at faffassociation.com or find the link in our show notes.
It's so right. One of the best pieces of advice I ever got, and I was 30 at the time when I got it, I walked into the dean of students at William Jessup University. I was a 30-year-old sophomore because I had already done enough school to be getting out of freshman year, but I went back to get my degree in pastoral ministries. I walked into Bryce Jessup's office. He's the son of the founder of William Jessup. We have this conversation. I told him about my dreams and passions. This was an hour-long conversation. And at the end of it, he said, Ricky, the best advice I can give you is this. Two things. Number one, you're a high I. You're a visionary. Get it out there, get your ideas out there and stuff like. He goes, you need a high D. It's a disc. You take a test. It's called the disc test. You need a high D. A high D is someone whose rubber meets the road. It's like, okay, Ricky, you want to build R2D2. That's great. How do we do that? Where do we
Right.
get the money? Where do we get the tools? Put yourself with a high D because you're a high I. You need to balance each other out. I was like, that is brilliant because if I'm left to my own, I'm just going to vision cast and dream all day and nothing's ever going to get done. And then number two, he's a Christian man. He loves the Lord. He's in heaven. He read the Bible. He preached. But he said, I have an African proverb for you. He said, if you want to run fast, run by yourself. And if you want to run far, run with a team. And I just realized in that moment that if I want to get to the finish line of what God's called me to do, I'm not going to do it by myself. There's no way with me alone, I'm going to be able to dot all the I's, cross all the T's, come up with the budget, blah, 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 blah. No way. And so I put a good team around me. And so to your point, you just have to have these things in your life. You have to have the soft skills and you can't lie to yourself, right? I can't lie to myself right now and say I'm the world's foremost expert on sheep shearing when I'm not. So you have to be honest with yourself and say, I'm not good at line budgeting. I need to bring in a line budget person. I'm not good at whatever. I need to bring someone in. You cannot be great at all things. And so you have to put people around you that can support you.
Yeah, and I don't think that I think that if we feel like we have to do everything ourselves, then we're also removing ourselves from the opportunity for God to bless us and speak to us. Because a lot of the times, the way that God connects with us and speaks to us and impacts our lives is through people. And so when we are surrounded with people, then that's when we get to have some of those really tangible moments where people say things and you're like, you have no idea. I was just praying about that this morning.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. Exactly.
I think one of the things we've learned is that filmmaking is inherently collaborative. Just 100%. A screenwriter doesn't end up with a film unless other people are involved.
Absolutely.
And you pick any role, it relies on a team by nature. And I think that's, for us, a big part of what we do and why we do it in our goal of bringing people together. It just requires collaboration. And
It does.
And as an individual, you grow the fastest and become the best you can be the sooner you start involving other people in your journey.
Amen. Love that, Jeff.
Yeah. It reminds me of the scripture that talks about the body of Christ and
Yeah.
that like there are different members in the body and they have different roles and different responsibilities, but every single one of them is necessary and relevant to the function and health of the body. That if your pinky is sore, like you're not going to be able to stop thinking about it. Like I broke my finger a couple weeks ago and I can't stop thinking about it because like everything I do, I'm like, my finger, it hurts.
Yeah. The I can't tell the foot's worthless, and I can't be on a set and tell my actors I don't need you. Well, yeah, you kind of do.
This has been another fantastic conversation with you.
Thank you.
And I'm actually looking forward to getting to know you more. I know we've got some plans to talk about,
Yeah.
maybe getting some of your education on fafassociation.com. So
Absolutely.
everybody watch for that. And I'll be happy to share some announcements when you've got some stuff out. And
Thank you both.
Yeah.
Yeah.
okay, so how do people find your book?
They can go on Amazon, just type my name in. Just go to Amazon, put Ricky Borba, and my book will come up. It's on Amazon, it's on Barnes & Noble, it's on all the major websites. I was blessed to be published by Trilogy Publishing, which is the TBN arm of publishing, and so it's everywhere. And yeah, that's how they can find it.
Perfect. Okay, we'll get that link and put it in the show notes also.
Okay, great.
And do you have a URL regarding your training at this point, or anything you can share?
Yeah, absolutely. So I have a couple websites. They can go to rickyborba.com, which is my name, and that's kind of who I am and what I'm working on and stuff like that. But specifically for the masterclass is the letter A, T-O, the letter Z, A to Z, .film.
Okay,
Yeah.
perfect. Thank you so much.
Thanks for listening to the Faith and Family Filmmakers podcast. If you've been enjoying this podcast, take a moment to follow or subscribe on your favorite podcast player so you don't miss an episode. And if you'd like to support the production of this podcast, you can leave a tip at faffpodcast.com/support. Bringing filmmakers together for faith and family.